You know, when you go out on a patrol, there's only four things that happen. You go out, you can get injured, you get killed, you can get captured, or you come back. So it's a Russian roulette kind of thing. You don't know where you're going to land. In the Marine Corps, you don't leave your brothers behind. You just do whatever you have to do to get them back. So that's why we stayed there until we could retrieve their bodies. The blood and the guts and the living and the dying. No rhyme or reason who was going to die. It is what it is. Do or die.
All right, here we go. All right, thanks again, Richard, for being here. Appreciate it. Let's just jump into it. Let's just get started. Why don't you tell me, start off by just introducing yourself. Tell me your name, branch of service, and the years that you served.
I'm Richard Rivera. I was in the Marine Corps from August of '67 until discharged in April of '69.
Wow.
Yes.
All right. How about why don't you tell me a little bit about where you're from, where were you born, where you're from, and a little bit about your upbringing.
Okay. I was born in Los Angeles, California, but my folks lived in Long Beach, so I lived in Long Beach, born and raised in Long Beach, till I went in the Marine Corps. Of course, when I got back from the Marine Corps, I stayed in Long Beach. Never left Long Beach, other than to go on vacations and things like that.
Wow. So you were born and raised in Long Beach?
In California. From Los Angeles. Born in Los Angeles, but raised in Long Beach.
Okay.
Yeah.
And you're still in Long Beach?
Still in Long Beach.
What high school did you go to?
I went to Long Beach Poly.
Okay.
And after graduation from high school, I went to work at Douglas Aircraft back then. Then it became McDonnell, and then it became Boeing again after all the purchases. But that's where I started working at when I was out of high school, building aircraft. Then the Vietnam War was going on, so I was drafted, and I went down to the induction center, and I was in there, and I saw the shortest line, so I went and got in that line, and it was the Marine Corps. So I ended up in the Marine Corps. The longest line was the Navy, and then the Army, and the Air Force. But the only ones that were inducting at the time was the Marine Corps, the Navy, and the Army. You could do 2 years with either one of those branches.
Oh,
but I
wow.
picked the Marine Corps, and I'm certainly happy that I did.
Were you, you said you were drafted. Did you have any thoughts of going in, serving in the military before the draft or anything?
Yes, I had many of my relatives that had been in the military, and the Marine Corps had the nicest uniform of them all. I didn't care for the Navy one, so I said, "Well, I think if I go into any branch, I'm going to go in the Marine Corps," and so that's why I chose the Marine Corps rather than to be told where I was going to go.
Wow.
So worked out.
Yeah. How did the draft work? So you were standing in that line, and what was the process like?
You would go down to the induction center, and there was just wall-to-wall young men like myself, and you would just get in a line, and you get sworn in and that.
And you could choose any line you wanted to?
Yes. For the 2-year enlistments,
Right.
Only for 2 year, for the draft, your obligation. Okay. And the only ones that you could get into at that time for 2 years was the Marine Corps, the Navy, and the Army. If you went to the Air Force, they didn't do draftees in the Air Force. You had to enlist, be a regular service.
So you're standing in that line and you get sworn in. What happens from there?
Well, they gave us a meal ticket. So went down to this place that we ate at, and then they had told us when we were going to be being picked up to go to basic training, and so I met them where I was supposed to meet them at, and was in a bus, and we drove around picking up other Marines, they were going to be Marines, and from there they drove us down to Camp MCRD in San Diego, and then get off the bus, and it all began. induction and introduction to the Marine Corps.
Wow.
Yeah.
So you went to boot camp in
MCRD, San Diego.
wow. What was it like, getting into boot camp? Was it a culture shock for you, or what was it like back then?
Oh, it was, because I was pretty undisciplined. I was used to doing what I wanted when I wanted, and it was totally different. Where you're being told what to do, when to do it, and how to do it, and no other alternative. So it was quite an experience. Really, it hated it at the beginning, but at the end, I seen how it was very valuable, and it's helped me all through life. That discipline that they instilled in me.
Yeah. How long was boot camp back then?
8 weeks was a short, abbreviated boot camp because they needed fresh meat to go to Vietnam, so the boot camp was cut short. And so we went to boot camp, then we went to ITR. Then from there we went to school to be for the MOSs. You were told what MOS you were, and then you went home. Then I was told to report where to report, and reported there. Got my training. I was actually trained to be an Ontos crewman, which is a small armored vehicle with 6 106s on it, 3 on each side of it. But received my training for that down here in Del Mar, California, not at the Del Mar city, but at the Del Mar military MCRD base, where they trained for tanks and for Amtraks, Ontos, and that's where I got my basic training. Then waited for my next assignment. The next assignment was Vietnam. So I got to Vietnam, and they didn't need Ontos crewmen. They needed more. They needed riflemen. So I ended up being a rifleman, and ended up being with the 1st Marine Division, Bravo 1-1, and that was my place till I got medevaced out of Vietnam in September the 5th of 1968. So I was there March, April, May, June, July, August, September, and then I guess, like I say, I was medevaced on the 5th of September. Ended up going to had some surgeries there in Da Nang, and then from Da Nang they sent me to Japan, and I was a 249th Army General in Japan, big Army hospital, and waiting there. I thought I was going to go back to my unit, but they said, no, you're going home. So at that point, they had some more surgeries, and then I was put on a airplane, and we flew back to Travis Air Force Base in the States. And from there, I went to, from Travis Air Force Hospital, I went to the Naval Hospital at Camp Pendleton, and had some more work done there, some more surgeries. And then I was released into a hospital battalion, and there was a whole bunch of us other Marines in there waiting for our next duty station or assignment. And we were all being medically released. So it was just a thing where you went there and you just spent your time, and no assignments, no nothing. We just would go to our medical appointments, physical therapy, whatever you had to have done, and waiting for for our discharge. And so I got discharged on April the 5th of 1969, and came out, went to go back to work, but I couldn't because I had restrictions that I couldn't do. And so they said, well, we can't accept you back, so you have to go to the doctors, get a release. So I went to the VA, and then they said, well, we can't release you to go back to work because you need some more work, surgery. So I had to have another surgery there, and then I rehabbed that, and then a year later I went back to work, and that was the beginning of all that. But in the interim of all that, I was at the VA doing my therapy and things of that nature, and I was always felt like I wasn't fitting in, and I figured, well, that's because I'm with a bunch of strange people. But it wasn't that. It was me. I had changed. I was from what I was before I went in, before I served. I became more introverted, and I became self-destructive. I abused alcohol and some drugs, and didn't like to be around people, and was always made sure I knew where I was at so that I could find my way wherever I was at to a safe place. And I was always like that because it was in the hospital. They told me when the doctors come in, they talk to you, and there's a doctor that always comes in and asks you how you doing. And they told me, so well, that's the one you want to tell him you're doing okay, because if you tell him anything that's contrary to that, they're going to keep you here. They're going to put you in K. It was K2, I think it was called. That's the psych ward. So I would always tell the doctor when he'd come by, they do their morning rounds. I would tell that's the psychiatrist doctor. I said, oh, I'm fine, no problems. So, but I had a lot of problems. So I never had any of that addressed until after my wife passed away many years later, and I was left alone. And then I realized I was running back through life, thinking of all the things that I had seen and done. And I realized that most of the stuff that I had done was negative. And I always wondered, why do I do such negative things? Well, it was just because I thought, well, hell, you're just a bad person. But I thought, well, shit, I couldn't be a bad person. But what it was, like I say, was my way of coping with my physical injuries were no problem. You heal from all that. But my brain was the part that didn't heal, the PTSD. I didn't know I had it till years later, and I was at the VA, and I was talking with this one doctor, and she says, you have some issues. And I said, I guess so. She told me that I needed to see some other counselors, and sure enough, I talked with them, and they ran tests and said, yes, you have a form of PTSD. And I said, I don't know about all of that. But once they put me on medication, I noticed a change in that I didn't have that anger and hostility. I was very hostile before that, and I would get in fights. I would get in arguments. I wasn't very pleasant to be around. And once I got on my medications, that I was able to control I felt better about myself. I still knew who I was, but I felt better. My mind wasn't racing around looking for reasons for me to do what I did with the coping. And it was all good after that, and it's been good since then. And I go to the VA, and my doctors are all very good. I talk with my open door policy with my psychiatrist. I can call him and let him know I need to visit with him, and I can go in, and he calls and checks on me, and it's all been good. But I want to give a little bit about the story of Vietnam. When I got to Vietnam, it was strange. It was weather was nice, a lot of rain, and the people were just regular people, regular small people. They were all small, and of course they didn't speak English, and I didn't speak Vietnamese, so they always look at you and speak, and you didn't know what they were saying. So I was always very leery of them, and to this day I'm still very leery of places where I'm at and people speak a language that I don't understand. But when I was in Vietnam, we would be out on patrols, and I would, you see them when you're out there on patrols, and you keep an eye on them, and you just didn't open fire and shoot on them, just to shoot at them. But there was a lot of good times I had in Vietnam too, where we'd sit around at nighttime and listen to the music, and you didn't have alcohol. We get 2 cans of beer every month. They would bring in pallets, give you 2 beers a month or 2 soda pops. I'd trade the 2 sodas for 2 beers, and we would have a good time. Then we'd go out on patrols, and you either made it back from the patrol or you got injured or medevaced, and then you'd bunker down for the night. The next day, the same thing. You'd go out again on another patrol, road sweeps, things like that. And I never ever thought till I got back, until I was much later in life, I realized why I had the problems that I had. When you go out on a patrol, there's only 4 things that happen. You go out, you can get injured, you get killed, you can get captured, or you come back. So it's a Russian roulette kind of thing. You don't know where you're going to land. And so you never think about it, because if you did, you drive yourself crazy. So I just realized that, that every time I made it, like I say, I made it back every time except for when I got injured, when I tripped a landmine. And after that, I was, like I say, I had all kinds of different issues, psychological issues. But now that I'm back, now that I'm getting help for my issues, life is really good. I enjoy myself. I enjoy being around others, and it's been a wonderful transition.
Now, is it safe to say that most people, if they were to go out on patrol and trip a landmine, they usually don't make it out of that? Is that right?
Yes. One thing about combat is you don't know why or what or who or what. And I was very fortunate in that I tripped that mine with the back of my left foot, and I heard it click, and then and then the next thing I know, I'm on the ground, and I was just very fortunate that I hit it with the back of the right heel, so that it didn't. Most of the concussion, most of the explosion, it was behind me in the backside of me. Mm-hmm. So I got on my arms and my legs where I walk like this with a rifle, and so it got me up in this area and on this area in the backside, my legs, and I was just lucky. There's no rhyme or reason. It's just, there's certain things in life that happen that you have absolutely no control of, and that's one of them, is who's going to die and who's going to live, who's going to get wounded, who's not going to get wounded. So it's just one of those things. Mm. You can't think about it or you'll drive yourself crazy.
Was anybody else injured from that landmine?
One person behind me, because we were on, like I say, I was in the front walking the point, and there was one other Marine behind me, and he got some shrapnel in the forehead. But it's a good thing he was further back, because if he would have been closer to me, he would have been hit with a whole lot of shrapnel, and he probably wouldn't have made it. But
so when you step on that, you said you hear a click. Mm-hmm. When you hear a click, is that it, like, because you have the pressure on it and it's waiting, as soon as you release the pressure, it's going to go off, or how does that work?
I believe so, because like I say, all I know is once I hear the click, the next thing I do, I'm on the ground. Mm. I got it, and my ears are ringing. I didn't know if I had lost consciousness or any of that, but the medic, corpsman at the time, crawled over to where I was at. The rest of the guys stayed back because they didn't know what else was in the surrounding area, what kind of other mines or whatever, and patched me up. And they had to make a gurney for, because it was September the 5th was the beginning of a typhoon. And so there wasn't, the helicopters weren't out there flying around. So they called for medevac, but they said, well, we can't get them, so you have to get them to a road. And they took, we had ponchos, you know, for inclement weather, for when it rained. And they made, with a couple of rifles and the ponchos, they made a gurney. And they carried me off to a road. And then they got me with like an ambulance. It took me to a field hospital, not a regular hospital, but a field hospital. It was a tent. And I'm in the tent there, all the doctors are coming around and they're scrubbing me with betadine, I guess it is. Brown stuff all over me, my arms and my legs. And next thing I know, I wake up again and I've had surgery. Then I'm in a Navy hospital in Da Nang at that point, and just waiting to see what my next scenario is going to be. So that was that.
Mm. You know, before that incident, had you been out on several patrols before that?
Oh yes, I was in with the 1st Marines, 1-1, like I say, Bravo Company, and we were, when I got assigned with them, they were just outside of Quezon, on Hill, I think it was 5-5, and from Hill 5-5, I was sent to replace some other Marines that were injured up on Hill 881. So I was up on Hill 881 North, it's called. And there it would be there would be patrols that went out, but most of the time we spent there just protecting the top of that hill, mountain, if you will. Mm-hmm. So I was there till just after July 4th of '68, and we were leaving Hill 881, and the time we were cut off, so they couldn't get helicopters in, and then they finally did get in and get us out of there. In the meantime, we had ran out of food, we had run out of water, and the only good thing about that is the rats weren't around, because when you were there, if you did, you would go down to sleep at nighttime because everybody slept different hours because you could be on watch. And you'd sleep and you'd feel these damn rats just run across your body because they would pick up cans of food, garbage, whatever was around. And that was another thing that I hated was I became so damn fearful of rats because they would, like I say, run across you while you're sleeping. You'd wake up in a cold sweat, just angry as hell. And then we left there, and like I say, it took us to another hill where the other Marines were, Hill 861, I believe. And I was there. Well, the guy I was with, he got malaria, so we shared the same bunker. Luckily, I didn't get it. And he was medevaced out. And then we spent some time there while they were retrieving some more Marines that had been caught out, had been on a patrol and were trapped outside the wire and were all dead. In the Marine Corps, you don't leave your brothers behind. You just do whatever you have to do to get them back. So that's why we stayed there until we could retrieve their bodies. And then we left that hill, and they took us to another place called a rock pile, which was just south of Quezon along the river there. And that was a nice place. You had nice bunkers, they had a chow hall. Because prior to that, everything I ate was canned foods, with C rations, it would call K rations. So we would eat that. But at least at the other camp, we had a kitchen, a tent. And they would give us 2 meals a day there. They would fly some in with helicopters. And then we'd eat. And every time we'd go to eat, the enemy would be firing rockets at us. So once you'd wait for you'd hear the rockets coming in, and they make that crackling sound. And then they hit, and then you wait till there's no more sounds. Then you go up to the chow hall. But they knew every day what time we were going to eat, so they would bomb us like that with the rockets. That was at the rock pile. That was kind of a neat place. Like I said, we had a river there, play in the water. And then from there, we went to get regrouped because our unit had got down to where there was only about 340 of us left. And so we needed to be brought up to scale. So they sent us to Quang Tri province, and took away our rifles and ammunition. And we were there getting new clothing, showers. That's another thing. When we got there for the showers, they give you the bucket, and then they give you a toilet brush. I went, what the hell is a toilet brush for? I thought that we were going on a work detail. Well, the toilet brush was to scrub your back, because we were all filthy from all the dirt there in Vietnam, red dirt, red clay. That's another thing I forgot to say is we didn't have facilities for bathing or showering or all we had was latrines for the bathrooms. In a few places you would use cans and put water in them and kind of shower like that. But other than that, there was no other facilities. But at Quang Tri, we got to take all the showers, and they issued us new clothing and fed us really good, and then reassigned us again. So we were sent to a place called Cantien. It was a round compound area, and it had 8mm guns on it, like 155s. 155s is what they were, and it was a mined area all the way around. You only had one road coming in, and then you had two gates that you went out to go on patrols. So we would do the mornings, we'd do the mine sweep so that the trucks could bring in supplies. And then you would go out on patrols, and you'd go out the gates on the patrols. So that was another fun thing. Was we were out one night on a company size sweep, and we got to where we were going. We hunkered down for the night, and when we woke up the next morning, could hear Vietnamese talking. And so we realized that they did the same thing. They had been out at that night. I guess they had been out also, and they were camped out by where we were at. Once they heard us, because you could hear them because they were real loud. They're boisterous kind of people. And so they started firing at us. We returned fire, and then they took off, and we went after them. Never made contact with them again, except for that night. Then we got hit with. We were out, and we were camped down again for the night, and we got hit with artillery, and that was one of the scariest things I've ever experienced, because you had nowhere to get away from the artillery, because we were on the ground. We didn't have, you're out on a patrol at nighttime. You're not out on patrol. You have forward observers that go out there, and they're watching for you in case they're coming up. And so we got hit with this artillery. You could hear it hit, and then you'd hear the whistling of the shrapnel, just whistling as it's going by you, and you're hoping the hell it isn't for you. It's going to hit you. And like I say, you haven't dug holes because you're not going to be there for a long time. You're out on patrols. So anyway, we survived through that. And the next day, we went back to Cantien, and was there again. And then we got reassigned again after a few weeks, and went down south, outside of Da Nang, south of Da Nang, which wasn't was the last place I was before I got medevaced. But I didn't care for it down there, because down there you would be around civilians, the civilian Vietnamese peoples. When we were up north, it was only Marines, and of course the Arbans and Army. So anyone that wasn't either in the Army or the Marine Corps was or the Arbans was the enemy. So it was a lot easier to know who you were fighting against. But when you went down south and you're around civilians, you can't just open up fire on them and shoot them, like you could up north. Up north, you were making contact. So that was another strange experience in Vietnam, was dealing with civilians, opposed to just being out there fighting the enemy. So that was no fun. And I can see where a lot of people had issues with it, because it's so difficult. We're used to seeing just enemy, and then all of a sudden now we're seeing the regular citizenry of Vietnam. But like I said, I didn't have to deal with that long, because I got medevaced out. But that was it. Then, like I say, I came back to States and waited for my next assignment. My next assignment was being discharged. So I was discharged, and that was the end of that, my tour in Vietnam.
Wow. When you came back home, Richard, did you come back live with your parents, or where did you come back and live? Did you have family waiting for you back home?
Yes, I was very fortunate that I came back home to Long Beach, and all my family lived there, my friends. So I was staying with my parents at the time, and till I got my own place. And then every once, I'd lose my place because I didn't have the money, or I'd lose my money, and I'd end up at my parents'. Then I'd be out again, back at my parents', and then I finally met someone that I ended up getting married to. So I lived with my wife at that point, and we were together for it'd be 10 years. Yeah, I think it was 10 years. Then she divorced me because of my issues. So it was my fault, not her fault. But then after that, I was by myself again. Then I met another lady, and I got married again, and we were together till she passed. But in the meantime, I was, like I say, self-medicating with alcohol and drugs, recreational type, not nothing like that. But just doing my thing, keeping a roof over my children's head, and providing for them and my other wife, and everything was going good. And my wife passed away, and then then it became another dark period, because I was left alone again to my own. And so I've always been kind of a loner since I got back from Vietnam. I didn't have a whole lot of, when I went in, I had a lot of friends. And when I came out, I kind of didn't go back to those friendships for what reason, I don't know. And a lot of my friends, they ended up serving also. And a lot of them died also after they got back from Vietnam, either for drugs. Quite a few of them had drug issues. And that was that. But we were always, close in that respect, because of what we had experienced. So I didn't really associate myself with other people that weren't that weren't Marines, or hadn't experienced like Vietnam, because you feel like you got someone you can talk to, and I would just talk with vets, And like I say, I went to the VA in Long Beach, and it was a great hospital. Back then, it was very, very crowded with all the veterans, because we still had World War I veterans, World War II, Korea, and us Vietnam veterans. There was a few Spanish American War veterans there too that were way up in age, almost 100 years old. And you learned a lot in the VA from the other vets, because they had all been the same way. They had all seen the same type of, not the same type of warfare, but the experience of war is the same, irrespective of whether it's in the European theater or the South Vietnam, Korea. They're all the same. You know, the blood and the guts and the living and the dying. No rhyme or reason who's going to die. It is what it is. But you just coped with it all as best as you could. Now that's a lot better. Now that there's more treatment for it. Before, the only treatment was they'd lock you up in a ward and medicate you with Thorazine. You can see them doing the Thorazine shuffle. So yeah, now at least now they're a lot better at helping you with your diagnosis and your issues. So it's getting better. It's I'm so happy that I finally, after all the years of just holding it in, that I finally was able to express it to someone else other than myself. And it's been, like I say, I've been a good road now. It was a rocky road prior to that, but now it's a good road.
Does it feel better, like, talking about it, Richard? Like, you just mentioned it. It kind of maybe sounds like it helped you being able to talk to somebody else about it. That helped? Does that help you deal with it?
Yes, it did. But the only one of the worst things about this whole experience is a war. Is this last war we've had with Afghanistan and Iraq and the Middle East? Because when I was inducted, you went off to tour. You did your tour in Vietnam, and you came back. You wait for your discharge, and you were discharged. The only ones that ever went back to Vietnam were guys that extended to go back to Vietnam or were career veterans. Because the career veterans, you're going to go where you're sent, so you would do more than one tour. But these gentlemen, these young men that were fighting in this last wars, the desert wars, had no chance. I mean, they would do their time there, come home, wait, do something else, then be sent back. So every time you get sent back, that roulette wheel starts spinning again. And you're either going to get, like I say, you're going to go out. You're either going to come back, all right. You're going to get wounded while you're out there. You're going to get killed while you're out there, or you're going to get captured when you're out there. So out of 100, the 100%, 25% is all you got going for you, is that you make it back all right. The other three things aren't so good. One being death, the other one being wounded, and the other one being captured. So I can see what, if I'd had to go through that experience, I don't know if I'd be alive right now. I don't know what the hell I'd have done. Because you're just constantly being thrown back in there, back in there, back in there, back in there. So there's really no way to heal, because you're starting to get better, and next thing you know, you're back out there again. And so my heart goes out to all of the veterans from this last wars, if you will, because they were kept it, sending them back. And if you keep going back, you only the luck runs out on you. The percentages catch up with you. Like I say, you only got 25% every time you go out on patrol. of making it back without any issue. The other 75% is like I say, an injury, a wound, death, or being captured. So the odds are always against you, but you got to do your job, and so they do their job. And so we got to find some other way to resolve all this and come to a better understanding of what's really needs to be done for our veterans.
Yeah. And, Richard, you hit the nail on the head. That's exactly why we got this project going on, because just exactly what you just said right now, veterans being recycled back into combat over and over and over again. I don't think, the general public doesn't realize that. They might think that maybe they went one time and you know what I mean? But like you just mentioned, I don't think I could have said it better. It's like a game of Russian roulette with four possible outcomes, specific outcomes. And unfortunately, even the best outcome of you coming back alive still isn't a great outcome, because then you get out and you're having to deal with everything that you saw and experienced, right?
Yes. Yeah, you can never, that never goes away. That stays in your brain forever. It's just because we're a recording machine, and that's what it is. So those experiences that we experience are going to be with us for life. It's a matter of learning to cope and deal with those experiences, as far as the PTSD, because everyone suffers from that in one form or another, from all of our experiences in life, whether it's combat related or some other thing. Yeah, we got a tough road there for the veterans. Hopefully it gets better for them all. That's what I hope for and pray for.
What would you say, Richard, to maybe a young veteran who's experienced combat in these more recent wars in Afghanistan and Iraq, that is maybe dealing with some of the issues that you dealt with when you got back from Vietnam?
The main thing I would instill in them is to not feel alone. Not feel isolated. Don't isolate yourself. Communicate to the people that can help you, and know that it's going to get better. It's always going to get better as long as you do the right steps and keep yourself in contact with the people that are going to help you, and whether it be family members or physicians or clergymen, whomever is going to be able to understand and help you to cope with what you're going through, because no one can go through it but yourself, and but you do need to help along the way. If you think you can do it by yourself, you're kind of fooling yourself, because we don't have that ability. We all need help. From the day you're conceived till the day you die, we all need help. And so that to the veterans that are still suffering and will be suffering, don't be afraid to speak out, and I mean positively, not negatively. Reach out and get whatever assistance that you need to help you cope with your life, because it's changed because of your experience. You can't erase what's already in there. So just do the best you can and keep yourself in the most positive attitude you can.
I really appreciate you being here and sitting down and telling your story, Richard. Like I said in the beginning, veterans are going to be the backbone of this organization, and it takes a lot of courage to sit here and tell your story, because a lot of us veterans, we're to ourselves. I mean, you said it earlier, you didn't really have many friends, and the only people you got along with was really the people that experienced what you experienced. And I imagine it's because trying to talk to someone else, they just can't get it, and it's not their fault. It's just they haven't experienced it, so they just can't fathom having gone through something like that. And so the last thing I'll ask is how did it feel to sit down and tell your story today?
It always feels good to speak with someone that knows what I've been what I've experienced, and what I'm going through, and because at least I know that it's not a cry for pity or anything else. It's just explaining how we all feel when we're in a situation of combat and serving our country. We all take that risk of getting the short end of the stick, so to speak. And our country is what it is because of veterans. Veterans have made what this country is all about. It's just, and we will continue to do that because that's what we do as American veterans, American citizens. We take care of our country and our people, our young and our old. And we'll continue to do that.
Awesome. Well, again, thanks for being here, Richard. Thank you for your service, and Semper Fi, brother.
Hoorah. Thank you, and Semper Fi also. Do or die.
Do or die.
Push it to the limit, I can't go no more. Red light, no way, I'm coming back home.